Okay, so as you can see here on the screen, we're in the book of Genesis chapter 9. And we're going to jump right on down to verse 18. Start there, and it reads, And the sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japhet. And Ham is what? The father of Canaan. Okay, verse 19. These are the three sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread. Okay, so that's letting you know that after the flood, the three sons of Noah repopulated the earth, right? Some believe that, some don't. Me personally, I believe that because I believe the scripture, but other people who don't believe in scripture don't believe that, right? Verse 20. And Noah began to be an husbandman, and he planted a vineyard. Verse 21. And he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent, meaning that, when some people get drunk, they tend to lie naked. They take off their clothes to get comfortable. They can feel cooler, I guess, whatever. And, that's what Noah did, right? Verse 22. And Ham, the father of who? Canaan. All right. So that's reiterating who's the dad of Canaan, because that's also going to let you know the reason why Canaan was cursed, right? Saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brethren without. All right. Verse 23. And Shem and Japhet took a garment and laid it upon the shoulders, all right, Salakia garment, and laid it upon the shoulders and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father, all right, because they were shamefaced, right? They was respectful. Okay, they was obedient to their dad Noah, right? So that's why they went in backwards, because they just didn't want to walk in forward, and then they'll be looking at their dad just as Ham looked at his dad, right? But the only difference is, Ham, he made a mockery of it, right? Which was a sin to the Most High, right? And their faces were backward, and they saw not their dad's nakedness or their father's nakedness, is written here, right? Verse 24. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew that his younger son had done unto him, right? Verse 25. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, all right, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. Okay. Verse 27. 6. Salakia. And he said, Blessed be of the Most High power of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. All right. 27. The Most High shall enlarge Japhet, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Okay, so right here it's letting you know that the Most High is going to enlarge Japhet, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, right, which is his younger brother, and Canaan is going to be the servant of Shem. All right, and as it says right here, and he said, Blessed be the Lord power of Shem. All right, that's letting you know that Shem is the chosen lineage, right? And Canaan shall be his servant. All right, so it's reiterating in verse 27, as it says, and Canaan shall be his servant, which is Shem. All right. And then also, according to the book of Genesis 15, we already determined, who were the Egyptians, the so-called Egyptians that had the children of Israel in captivity. All right. Now, during the Abraham's time, we had the so-called Egyptians, which were really Canaanites. Just like I said, when you look into the definition of Egypt, it just goes back to the word bondage. Egypt is not a people. Egypt is a condition, right? It's not even a land, the name of a land. It's a condition, right? So when you say Hagar is an Egyptian, what do you mean, right? If the word Egypt means condition, right? What do you mean Hagar is an Egyptian? Okay, so when you go back to Genesis 15 and it says that the iniquity of the Amorites aren't fulfilled yet because they're going to have the children of Israel in captivity for 400 years. Who are the Amorites? They're the Canaanites. Okay, so who was Hagar? She was a Canaanite. She wasn't a so-called Egyptian. All right. And this, like I was talking about, this is what I was saying to the brother, and he got it. Because it really don't make no sense. It really don't make no sense for you to say, you know, someone is an Egyptian. How can you say someone is an Egyptian and the word Egypt don't even go back to a race? It don't go back to your race. The people over there in the land of so-called Egypt, which is really Mizraim, right? They don't even call themselves Egyptians. You go over there to Egypt, they don't call themselves Egyptians, right? If you look at the currency of the money, right, which is currency, if you look at their currency, they don't even have an Egyptian pyramid on it, right? They don't even have that bird that's associated with Egypt on it. They don't have none of that stuff on their currency, just as so-called, America, which is really renamed after Amerigo Vespucci, which is a commander, in the Roman army, right? Ancient army. Okay, so what the hell really is Egyptian culture, right? If the word Egypt goes back to bondage, which is a condition that you put the people in, how can you call Egypt a people? And then when you go to the land that's proclaimed to be Egypt, which is really Mizraim, they don't have no pyramids or no so-called Egyptian bird on their currency, which is the money. Like the United States have the pyramid on theirs. Okay, they have the so-called eagle on theirs, right? So this is why we call this place spiritual Egypt. Like I said before, it's not because they're worshiping the ancient gods of Egypt only, because spiritually, from their reincarnation, they are Egyptians. Okay, they enslaved the children of Israel, man. All right, like I was saying before, during the last dynasties of the so-called Egyptian empire, that's when they conquered the Nubian Cushites, in which had that land that was known as the land of Ethiopia, all right, and Somalia, right? In those regions nowadays is Kenya, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, Ethiopia, all right. So if the Nubian Cushites had that land before the so-called last dynasties, the Egyptians arrived, which is also stated in the book of Exodus chapter 1 when it says, a new king have arrived and have not known Joseph, right? Which makes no sense at all, because if the so-called people that ruled over that region was Egyptians, right, then how did that new king that arrived didn't know Joseph? Okay, because normally when a new king is chosen, they're chosen through the patriarch, right? They're chosen through the seed lineage of the previous king, right? So if that king that arrived in so-called Egypt didn't know Joseph, what seed lineage did he come from? He couldn't have came from the so-called Nubian Cushites that was in rulership in that region. They had to come from a different people, okay, that conquered that region. Okay, they took the region from the Cushites, right, which was the modern day, or is, I should say, the Ethiopians and the Somalians and the Kenyans and the Sudanese. All right, those are the people that had that land of so-called Egypt, which is Mizraim, before that last dynasty came in and conquered, which was from Alexander the Greek and a Roman, I should say. The Greeks are descendants of Japhet, all right? Descendants of Japhet, righteous people, they're good people. right? They weren't sinners. They weren't going around the world conquering, so to speak. All right, so this is where all of the mixing and the confusion comes, because when you call Alexander a Greek, then you're calling him a descendant of Japhet. Okay, but if Japhet himself was righteous, just as Shem, when they back walked into the tent because they didn't want to see the nakedness of Noah, then how has the descendants of Japhet became evil and conquered that region of Mizraim to make it Egypt for the so-called Israelites, right? That don't add up. That don't add up. You know, the children of Japhet, which were the Gentiles, which is supposedly sojourners of the Israelites in the so-called New Testament, how were they evil and called Alexander the Greek and Ptolemy and come to the land of Mizraim to conquer that land and then put the Israelites in a 400-year captivity, right? So this is what I was discussing with a brother one time, just like I said, and he understand, he got it. He said, you know what, that makes a whole lot of sense, you know, and this is how they're mixing and confusing people in the New Testament by calling everybody Gentiles. But according to the book of Genesis chapter 10, it's letting you know who the Gentiles are. They are descendants of Japhet. Gentiles aren't everyone that's not of the lineage of Shem, right? The book of Genesis chapter 10 lets you know who the Gentiles are. And then when you look into the descendants of Ham, they're known as the heathen, okay? The descendants of Canaan, I should say, because Canaan is the cursed nation, right? They're the nation of people that opposes, right? As it says in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 10, verses 1 through 5, right? They're the ones that's cutting the tree out of the forest, all right, and decorating it with silver and gold and giving honorarieship to idol gods, okay? Those are the Canaanites, man, all right? Not all of the Hamites, all of the sons of Ham wasn't cursed. Cush wasn't cursed, right? Put wasn't cursed. Mizraim wasn't cursed. All right. So there's a lot of confusion in this scripture that's going on. Okay, so just like I said, how can you say that Hagar was a Egyptian, okay, if the word Egypt or Egyptian is not even a people, man, right? It's a condition, right? So that's something for you guys to look up, man. I thank the Most High that he gave me that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding and discernment to see this thing, man, right? So getting back to the scripture. So the Most High enlarged Japhet, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. All right. So that's letting you know who was the servant of Shem, okay, and which were the servant of Abraham and Sarah. Hagar was a Canaanite, man. She wasn't an Egyptian, a so-called Egyptian. She was a Canaanite, man, right?